And that is how good you need to be able to jump into a world-class level of gig like the Foo Fighters. All right, I'm going to just speak candidly now about my true feelings on this. This is probably one of the things I'm most passionate about as a drummer, as a drum educator. And it's a conversation that I seem to have repetitively with my close drumming friends. And it relates to respect. Respect for the gig. Respect for your fellow musicians. Respect for music, for the music that you're playing at the moment. And respect for the craft of playing music, of playing drums, right? So with two of my good buddies, Dan Clayton and Chris Dawson, fairly recently, might have been last year actually by now, we did a series, a video, I guess, videocast series on myths. Myths in drumming, myths in music. A couple of times we sort of touched on people just not knowing, bit of Dunning-Kruger, people just not understanding or knowing what is required to play that well, and also to play in a group like the Foo Fighters. So that horrendous time, around that time where Taylor Hawkins passed away, and all of us fans were just left reeling, and we're saying, what's going to happen to the band? Would they even replace him? Is the band going to continue? And you got people coming in with really naive points of view, and it really demonstrated a lack of understanding about playing at this level. Such as, well, anyone can play the Foo Fighters, the songs are easy. Another one that popped up was people, and I'm not trying to critique anyone individually here, I think it just overall generally highlighted some massive misconceptions about things, about the reality of things. I planned a Foo Fighters tribute, I could do it again. Another one was, wow, why did they get Josh Freese? Josh Freese is one of the best drummers in the world. They could have got anyone. Those songs are easy. They could have got anyone. Here is the reality of what would have been the biggest gig in the world at that point. The biggest gig in the world was available. They didn't just get anyone. They got the best, arguably the best rock drummer of all time, perhaps. We're talking in session, facility, chops, feel, metronomic time, just overall facility and ability on the drums. One of the greats, undoubtedly one of the greats. They're not just getting anyone. Why would they just get anyone? They want to put on the best and biggest, baddest show that they can, right? And then that leads you to, well, what is it about Josh Freese? What is it about him? If you accept my first point here, okay, so what is it about him that makes him so good, Was there anything in that clip in particular that stood out to you? Again, hit me in the comments if there was something that stood out to you. What stands out to me, what hits me like right between the eyes, is time. Now, a lot of people confuse metronomic time with good time. Can be, it's part of it. It's also time feel. His feel is so good. Look at the band. Look at the looks on the faces of the people in the band. Wow, this is a new energy. This is different, right? If you go and see Foo Fighters at one of their upcoming concerts, they're coming to New Zealand soon.
You're hurting all of us when you bring down New Zealand, okay?
You're going to see a different energy and excitement in the band because it's new. This is different for them, so it's going to be exciting. And things will feel different. Josh Freese is not trying to be Taylor Hawkins, and the success of the Foo Fighters drum throne is not defined by how well he can imitate what Taylor Hawkins did or what Dave Grohl did on some of the recordings of these famous songs that we know and love. Josh Freese is Josh Freese. He's an artist in his own right. He's been brought in to be Josh Freese in the Foo Fighters, and welcome you. You're part of the family now, and we want you to be you. We don't want you to try and be someone else. So that's just another part of it. You can learn so much off Josh Freese. I mean, you can go through all his recordings and, thousands of them. Have a look at his discography. Actually, I'll put that in the description of the video. It's just frightening how many tracks he's recorded and why he's in such demand. Why is he in such high demand? I mentioned the time, and I mentioned the time feel. Sound. Now, again, part of the Mythbust session that we did was gear. Oh, he must have really great gear. Listen to how good he sounds. It's not the gear, it's him. You could take his snare drum, which in that clip sounds like a sample because he hits it literally perfectly every single time. You could take that snare and play it. It's not going to sound like that because Josh Freese is playing it, right? Just like your own personal snare, which you might think, oh, okay, it sounds right. It just sounds like a snare. Give it to Josh Freese, it's going to sound like $1 million because it's the player, it's not the gear. So that's another myth. And I think small things that I often refer to on the channel, dynamics, subdivision. So dynamics, he did actually surprisingly go right down towards the end of the groove there. He brought it right down while they were simmering away and chatting and having a laugh and just being Foo Fighters, being cool. So he's got all of that. The other thing that happens, like this is basics, it's fundamentals, but this is the stuff that sounds good. 99% of us, when we bring that dynamic down to P, or we bring it down to like a really low level, we slow down. Similarly, play louder, we speed up. He can play anything he wants, louder or quiet. He's not going to speed up or slow down because he's got that facility. He's got that overall holistic ability to look at the music. What does the music require? He's not in his head thinking, oh, I've got to play on time here. What is the next part? He's got it all down. He's a master behind the kit. Subdivisions. Another thing I always bring up on the channel, subdivisions. So when he was going into those epic accented fills in the song, even though he's changing subdivision there's no shift in the tempo. So what that gives you is just a smooth transition for the band. You're getting all the benefits of the crescendo into the fill and the change of subdivision and all that excitement, and you just sail right on through. So again, an inexperienced drummer is going to be trying to achieve all that, but the tempo is going to be up and down, and then there's going to be a tempo correction when you get into the next part because you would have invariably sped up in the fill. All of this takes away from the intensity and the tension and what you've tried to create with the fill. Why do we even have a fill? To create excitement, perhaps, to signify a change in section, to take us into the chorus or take us back into the verse. It's not there as just, look at me, I'm playing drums and I'm hitting them all the toms now. Look how cool that is. No, it's music, right? It needs to be musically appropriate, and it doesn't really need to draw attention to itself. The music needs to draw attention to itself. The music is the feature here, not the drums. But yeah, there is just so much to be excited about here. I'm excited.
That's what she said.
About this. I'm excited for the Foo Fighters because they've got this dynamite drummer, and I feel like there's just going to be a new lease of life, a new energy for the group, and I'm just so happy. I think I called this at the time. I said, Josh Freese, you can go back to my videos at the, again, unfortunate time of Taylor's passing, and I think I said, well, if they get someone, I think Josh Freese would be amazing. Like he is a showman, he's experienced, he's not going to be overawed with the gig, he's just going to crush it. And you know Josh is going to crush it. And you know he wouldn't have even been in the conversation to take the throne if he wasn't going to crush it. There's no doubt, right? I mean, and finally, I guess it just leaves me thinking part of the Foo's live act was always Dave jumping on a drum kit as well, perhaps having a banter back and forth with Taylor. Imagine the drum battles now. You're battling a pretty heavy hitter in Josh Freese. And anyway, I'm just excited about where all this is going, and I cannot wait to see Foo Fighters live myself.